One cold day in early January, I went for a walk through the trees. How they swayed in the chilly breeze, their naked limbs to the sky, and dreaming of the green days ahead. I walked deeper through the woods, beckoned by the songs of the robins and the cardinals. I soon lost myself there, and every tree looked exactly the same. There was no variation, no distinction. I cursed myself for not leaving something behind to find my way out. The more I tried, the more lost I became, and all the while, the forest shifted and seemed to be moving in on me. The spot of earth between us grew smaller and smaller as the trees moved ever closer. I felt the ground below me shake and crack. I held my hands against the two nearest trees so as not to plunge to the depths below. A blue glow emitted from the cracks in the ground and opened with a loud rustle of dirt and ice. A tunnel of ice revealed itself, and as the trees pressed in, I had no other choice but to chance the icy depths. I let go and found myself sliding on ice, sliding with no end in sight. Just as I thought I may crush the icy realm, I was spewed out again to the forest from whence I came. The trees pressed in on me, and again the icy tunnel appeared. Again I was sped back out to the trees, and again pressed me, and again the icy tunnel. I lost count of how many. I lost count of how long the cycle lasted. My mind and body went numb. How many days had I lived like this? How long would I be pressed by thorny branches towards the frozen underground? After what felt like years, my mind suddenly became clear. This time I would stand still between the trees and try with all my might to avoid taking the tunnel. I took a deep breath as the trees began to press into me. A deep breath as they pressed through and around me, and I stretched my arms, branches, towards the sky. I reached my naked limbs and dreamed of spring. I bid the trees next to me, look below. A man in the forest, he looks familiar. A man in the forest, and we are afraid. We won't let them destroy us this time. We are very near gone, and the earth groans in pain. We'll make him one of us, shall we?
There's a door in your floor. Just there, below your feet. You can't see it. I've taken great care to conceal it, but it's there. I knock sometime and laugh when you go to your front door to see who's knocking. Sometimes I open the door in your floor and I creep about, tiptoeing to your bookshelf, and I take a book or two. Don't worry, I always give them back to you. You humans sure have some funny ideas about the way we look, don't you? The way you describe us in your book. Tut, 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 tut. They left out our best features, our cunning wit, and our skill of disguise. I can hide my tentacles in a suit just the way you do, or in a dress just the way they do. I can look handsome and pretty too.
I keep my heart in my hand, safe against my palm. I keep my heart stitched with golden thread. Deep green the trees in the glen, deep green and wet with dew. I touched my long fingers to the trees and heard them cry. Their song on the coming winter whistled sad and true. It was time to sleep now, to wake again when things were new. The Fae slept warm in spun blankets, gifted them by the kind and empathetic orb weavers who saw them cold and shivering. They slept 1,000 years that seemed but a day, oh, the waking Fae. The rats and mice nestled in their beds of straw and leaves, tucked in their little children warm and soft against Mama Rat's fur, kissed gently by Mama Mouse. The birds covered their babes with warm wings against the chill of winter's frost, and grouped their little beaks together. The foxes cozied into their dens, and the coyotes sang it was time to come home to their kinsfolk on the hunt. The spiders nestled into their spun caves, where they would hibernate throughout the winter. And all slept in the green that day. And you, humans, what did you do to their trees? What did you do to the fox's dens and the wandering coyote? Did they come home?
Is this a dream? Where am I? Who are all these people laughing down on me? I don't know how to escape this place, how to escape this nightmare in which I find myself. Won't anyone help me from this place? Open the door to the waking world. I cannot find the door. I am boxed in. Where is the door to the waking world? It's hidden from my sight. Is this a dream? Where am I? Who are all these people laughing down on me? I don't know how to escape this place, how to escape this nightmare in which I find myself. Won't anyone help me from this place? Open the door to the waking world. I cannot find the door. I am boxed in. Where is the door to the waking world? It's hidden from my sight.
It's Ui. Hilf. Hilf du. Hörst dich nicht? Ja. Hörst du? Ja. Ja. Heel belachelijk, ben je nog met. Lewis leaned over the edge of the weathered and faded old boat. A patch of light reflected from the swamp onto his red beard. He scratched his head and took a long sip out of an old bottle, crusted swamp water clinging to the brown bottle. He nearly fell from the boat as it rocked beneath with the presence of Beast, the old gator he'd been trying to catch since he was a boy.
Beast was tired of this human intruder in the swamp. He was tired of this old, dilapidated boat cutting into the green water like a rusty knife. He thought upsetting the water would chase this human out of his territory. This time, however, the years-long battle with the boy would be against him, because Beast was old and scarred by the many attempts Lewis had made on his life. Beast was tired. Lewis had a spear and a noose this time, not his old crumbling tools of death, but something new, shiny, and murderous. For the first time in his long life, Beast felt weak, and there was no fight left in him. He came up from the depths of the swamp, eyes alone showing, deep, wise eyes that were half blinded by a scrap with the boy that had lost him his left eye. He said in a deep voice, "I've tried to outlast you, Lewis. You were just bound and determined to kill me, aren't you? Know that if you slay me, a curse on your head from my blood, a curse of muck and mire upon you, Lewis, a curse on you and your bloodthirsty family." Lewis didn't seem surprised at all that Beast was talking to him. He figured that as long as he'd spent in the swamp, he'd probably learn Gator, or the Gator had learned human. One or the other, he understood him now. "Beast, we've been long in our battle of wits. I win this time." Beast shook his big green and brown head and said, "No, boy, I do." Beast closed his old eye, the one good eye, taking a last look at the murderous boy. He rose up from the water and felt the spear penetrate his heart, and he fell against the boat, shattering it to bits and nearly crushing Lewis in the process. Lewis grabbed his rope from the sinking boat and tied it around Beast's lifeless body, pulling him from the swamp. He dragged poor old Beast up to his house. Lewis' wife Josie and his kid Norman started stabbing at the slain animal, tearing into his rough flesh to the soft muscle below, Beast's blood pooling on the soft ground below, tunneling through the mud and mire and turning the deep below, blood-red vengeance. The house was a leaning structure, shouldn't have even been built on that unsteady ground, and it swayed and creaked ever more so with the blood of Beast working through the crevices up from the swamp mud below. They took poor old Beast into the kitchen and began cutting him up into pieces, a process which took considerable time given his immense size. There was ample food in the pantry. This wasn't an act of necessity, but more a show of superiority by Lewis, as he tried to kill the gator since he was young, and wouldn't give up his ill-fated win. As he and Josie cooked bits of the animal in boiling water, he laughed to himself and thought of the curse. "A gator who could speak, Josie." "You're nuts," said Josie. "Now get some bowls and help me dish out the Beast." As they sat to dinner, the three of them, Lewis couldn't stop thinking about the curse. The gator knew he was dead. He gave up trying to fight. Who's to say a gator couldn't curse you to hell for ending him? As Lewis kept contemplating the nature of the gator, the bits of Beast he shoveled into his mouth started to taste bitter and rancid. Around the table, his family seemed to be having the same foul taste. Norman spit out the meat and tried to wipe off his tongue with his sleeve. Lewis went still. The house began to groan and tremble, Veins of crimson red scattered through the walls of the house like ever-expanding fingers. Josie screamed as she looked at Louis and Norman. Norman felt a pain steadily building in his mouth. Huge teeth began protruding through his gums to his face, and his face began to lengthen. His skull reformed and cracked, growing larger and larger. Louis and Josie, too, began to change. All around Louis, the sound of cracking and reforming bones. He began to feel light-headed, but the shifting of his body into an animal kept his eyes wide with terror. His back crackled and broke as he reformed into something new. His spine grew long and he sunk to the floor. He lost memory of who the person was before. Norman had already begun to crawl towards the door on new legs, followed closely by Josie. Where were they going? Where were they going? Back, of course. Back to the swamp. I keep my heart, my hand, safe against my palm. I keep my heart stitched with golden thread.
The angels spat him out, the boy with the purple wings. They sang with a pious shout, "We have no need for such abominable things." The angels spat him out, the boy with the purple wings. They sang with a pious shout, "We have no need for such abominable things." The angels spat him out, the boy with the purple wings. They sang with a pious shout, "We have no need for such abominable things." Shh! Listen! Did you break his wings so he could not fly? Did you expel him from your perfect sky? The angel beat the boy and said to him, "Why hate me so? Why do you hate me so?" Beat with holy words because Jesus told them so. When he crawled out of mud, blood, and rain, he felt his horns had grown, and the angels beat him down again for his unholy existence. The boy with the purple wings couldn't understand why the angels beat him and called him slurs. He only knew he had to walk away from their heavenly light, for it burned him painfully. He kept walking for years with the angels at his heels. The farther he walked, the less they abused him. Every night the boy slept, he'd have nightmares of the angels, and he would wake up screaming and shaking in fear. He walked on, and one day he met a boy, and they fell in love. The boy with the purple, tattered, broken wings started to feel his wings heal themselves. As the boys kissed deeply, the angels returned to taunt and abuse them both. Wagging sanctified fingers, they shouted, "Unholy, unholy, unholy!" And the boys began to run. Hand in hand, they ran from the angels until one day the boy with the purple wings could fly again. And the two boys flew far away to a place the angels couldn't see them, and there they lived a life of love. So Missouri bin ich noch, die Nerv, der so nicht. Wie sich so besetzt. So Smiley, Sneem, Silly, Fisher, Sneem, the Corp, there's that. Oh, perfect, open. From the left in it. But I'm here no man. No, no, Kobe. Reef, nengi kish, nengi me roots, back up the weakness of near if it's empty on batty spell so with the on your vet. My two be a salad, call we hear the offer. Sleep, say has looked near if it's you're from your cold, Becky. You left me, Miss Nerve.